So Ramadan is a very special time to the people of Islam, as it is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. And during this time, it has its followers partake in a fast that happens all the way from sunrise to sunset. Now, this particular time of spirituality and prayer will last anywhere between 29 to 31 days. And it is an annual observance because it is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. But what are the pillars of Islam? Like, what do they mean? Are they actual pillars that stick out of the ground? Not really. They are basically 5 things that you have to follow, such as the Shahada, which is an affirmation that there is no deity, but God and Muhammad is his messenger. There is also Salat, which is praying 5 times a day. And Zakat, which is giving to charity. Hajj, meaning making a pilgrimage to Mecca at least once a lifetime. And of course, Sawm, which is spelled S-A-W-M, and that is the fasting during the month of Ramadan. But what is going on with the fasting? Why do people do it? I mean, how does fasting and not eating food have any relationship with religion? Well, the reason for this is purely to focus on faith. If you remove eating from your daily life, you have more time to spend praying to God. However, it's not just about fasting, it's also about refraining from other things in your life as well, such as gossip or cursing. Also, some couples have to refrain from having sex throughout the day, and for all you smokers out there, well, you can't really smoke because that is also, blasphemy as well. Now, just because you are a Muslim or you may know somebody who is Muslim doesn't mean they actually have to fast during this time. There are some exceptions, for example, people with physical or mental illnesses, women who are also pregnant or breastfeeding, and sometimes, in some cases, the elderly. There's also political figures and athletes that get exempt from this. However, it is strongly recommended that once you feel better and once you have time, that you must commit to the fast yourself. And for this fast, sometimes it can last up to 22 hours, because keep in mind, some Muslims live in polar regions. That would be insane. Not eating for 22 hours, I don't think I could do it. But how does this process work? Do you just wake up and just not eat anything? Pretty much. One thing for certain is your first prayer of the day is called a Fajr. And at night, when you usually break the fast, you will usually have a date and a drink of water. Ramadan is also a time where one really reflects on oneself and also gives a lot to charity. A lot of Muslims during this time will give towards needy causes that will feed the hungry because, as stated earlier, one of the pillars is Zakat, which means giving to charity. And this will happen with the 1.6 billion Muslims around the world who celebrate Ramadan. Now, you might have heard of this word Eid al-Fitr before. What does that mean? Well, that is sometimes called Eid, or the Day of Testing, which marks the end of Ramadan, where one will usually dress up in their best clothing and partake in a huge feast. Now, unlike Christmas, the dates for Ramadan are not always the same. The reason for this is because Ramadan follows the moon cycle and not the sun, which the Georgian calendar follows. Which is why you may see the crescent moon on many Muslim country flags. And because it follows the moon cycle, that means Ramadan is pushed around anywhere between 11 to 12 days a year, making every Ramadan not always at the same time, which could be really quite confusing if you're not really following the moon's path. So for those who are watching this who aren't Muslim but have Muslim friends, you may want to go up to them and say Ramadan Mubarak, which means have a blessed Ramadan. And I don't know about you guys, but when I think of Ramadan, I kind of wonder, where did this all come from? I mean, there's origins of Christmas, there's origin of Holi, but what about Ramadan itself? Firstly, the word Ramadan stems from the Arabic words Ramida or Ramed, which means hot or dryness. As for the creation of the holiday, it is said that Ramadan was the first time the verses of the Quran were given to the Prophet Muhammad somewhere around 610 CE. And because of the major religious significance within this celebration, in some Muslim countries, it is illegal to not partake in the fast. And if you're a foreigner visiting these countries during this time, you might want to pack a lunch.
First thing I want to clear up is the celebration isn't called Ramadan. Ramadan is the name of the month, and it's the 9th month of the Muslim calendar, and it's celebrated as the month when the first verses of the Quran were said to be revealed to the Prophet Muhammad in 610 CE. Laylat al-Qadr, or the Night of Power, is thought to be the actual day when the Quran was given to the Prophet Muhammad, and usually falls within the last 10 days of the holiday, because Ramadan is actually based on the lunar calendar rather than the Gregorian calendar. calendar, and the holiday starts 11 to 12 days earlier than it did the previous year. So it takes around 33 Islamic years for Ramadan to return to the same exact place on the Gregorian calendar. Next thing to note is the word Ramadan. It comes from the Arabic root words Ramida or Ramad, which means scorching heat or dryness. And this is because Ramadan usually takes place during the summer. Ramadan requires Muslims to fast during the daylight hours, and Muslims who live in places with a midnight sun or polar night follow the sunlight hours of Mecca. Also, while Ramadan means a month of fasting, dietitians actually see an increase in diabetes cases and weight gain due to the overeating once the sun goes down. So all y'all who are fasting, don't try to cram all that food at once. You may end up overeating anyways. Kind of defeats the whole purpose of the fast. But anyways, the next fact I want to share about Ramadan is that Ramadan is actually one of the 5 pillars of Islam, and the other pillars are Salat, which are the prayers, Shahada, which is an affirmation that there is no deity besides Allah and that his prophet is Muhammad. There's Zakat, which is charity, and Hajj, which is making a pilgrimage to Mecca at least once during your lifetime. So all adults are required to fast during the month of Ramadan, except for those who are elderly or ill or currently traveling or pregnant or breastfeeding, diabetic, chronically ill, all of that. It also applies to women who are menstruating. Now, children, though, are not required to fast during Ramadan until they reach the age of puberty. Now, if someone is sick during Ramadan and is unable to fast, he or she can make up the fast whenever they recover. But if someone deliberately breaks their fast during Ramadan for no legitimate reason, they are required to make up the missed days right away. So in other words, Ramadan isn't meant to be a burden to people, but if you are an able-bodied Muslim, you can't just be like, well, I don't feel like fasting today. All right, I'll just make it up another day. No. Or I don't feel like fasting today. I'm just not gonna make up those days at all. No, you gotta make up those days. Like I mentioned, fasting during Ramadan happens at sunrise all the way to sunset. So before dawn, Muslims eat a pre-fast meal called sahur. Then at sunset, they break the fast with a meal called iftar. Also, kind of a side note to this fact, so in many Muslim countries, restaurants remain open during Ramadan with a sign stating that food will only be served to non-Muslim people. It's a double-edged sword, I guess, because business still gotta operate, people still gotta make money, but at the same time, it's like, ugh, that's a lot of temptation right there, all that food and you can't eat it. But anyways, while we're on that note, as you can imagine, in countries where Muslims are the majority, Ramadan does have a drastic impact on daily life. For example, in the country of Egypt pushes the clocks back an hour during the holy month so that fasting feels like it's ending earlier and that evenings are lengthened. Now, work days are made shorter during the month to accommodate the additional time spent in prayer, as well as taking part in the festive meals that happen every single day. All right, so let's continue this episode. We got 5 more facts left. And at fact number 5, according to bankers and economists in Muslim countries, Ramadan almost always ushers in a month-long period of inflation because people drastically increase the amount of money spent on clothing and food. So the prices of certain standard foods go up dramatically. During Ramadan, a cup of tea can cost 6 times its normal price. However, economic productivity also declines because of the shorter work hours, as well as people are staying away from food and water on a daily basis. Ironically, many people gain weight during Ramadan though. So they sit down a lot more during the daytime and they eat richer food than normal at the fast breaking meal, and they get the majority of their daily calories at night shortly before going to sleep. So the body isn't really breaking down that food throughout the day. You're just kind of eating a massive meal and gonna sleep. And with that, people typically gain more weight. Ramadan is also an eagerly anticipated primetime TV season. Turkish and Arabic production companies, they work all year round to create a short 30-episode mini-series. So each one pertains to a night of the month of Ramadan in hopes of attracting more viewers. So they take the opportunity to boast about their earnings that they've made, as well as show off that their series was the most popular popular, things like that. Also, while most non-Muslims know of Ramadan for fasting, charity is also a very important part of the month as well. Muslims are obligated to give to charities on a regular basis in the form of either zakat, which is a mandatory giving, one of the 5 pillars of Islam, as well as sadaqah, which is voluntary and it's meant to go beyond the mere religious obligations. During Ramadan, the rewards of charity are considered greater. As a result, many Muslims will choose to give more during this month. We're coming down closer to the end of this episode, and we got a pretty interesting one coming in at number 2. Fasting has become a lot more prevalent, and it's been a huge part of Islam ever since the beginning. Now, mentions of abstaining from drinks and food also can be found in the Bible, the New Testament of the Bible, as well as the Hebrew Bible, which is considered to be the Old Testament of the Christian Bible, both of which precede the Prophet Muhammad, who was born in 570 AD. In the New Testament, Jesus fasted for 40 days in the desert, which resulted in certain Christian denominations observing Lent fasting to this day. And the final thing I want to share about Ramadan is that the end of Ramadan marks Eid al-Fitr, which is a large festival to celebrate the end of the fast. Celebration begins as soon as the new moon is sighted in the sky. During Eid, Muslims celebrate by putting on their best outfits. They attend large gatherings, they give gifts, they spend time with their family, and they have a large meal during the day. And Muslims also contribute a certain amount to charity so that the poor may also celebrate breaking their fast as well. Eid al-Fitr is considered to be a time of reverence, and Muslims praise Allah for helping them get through the entire month and ask for forgiveness for their sins that they've committed. So to give you non-Muslims a picture, you can kind of compare that to the Christian Christmas holiday. So I'm looking at 10 of some of the best foods to have during Ramadan from all around the world, and I'm warning you, you're gonna get hungry. So if you're a Muslim, do not be watching this video if you're currently in the hours where you fast. All right, so starting at number 10, let's look at Ali. And this is an Egyptian dish. It's a soft and creamy dessert with chewy edges, as well as it has crunchy bits of pastry, and you can find nuts in it as well. The Egyptian people love eating this food during Ramadan. It's a traditional food that goes all the way back to the Ayyubid dynasty, and of course it's very affordable to make. Now, it's made up of phyllo pastry, milk, double cream, nuts like I mentioned, and it's sometimes topped with powdered sugar. Sometimes people incorporate raisins in them, and also coconut flakes. So delicious. Number 9, we have chicken makhni, and this comes all the way from India. It's also known as butter chicken, one of my favorite foods in the world. It has a tomato-based sauce with a whole lot of butter in it. It adds to the flavor a lot. Now, if you keep the level of spice mild, I find that it tastes the best. You don't want to have this too spicy where it's like burning your tongue. You can serve butter chicken with naan as well as basmati rice. Either one of those foods are fabulous options, or you can just have the butter chicken itself. Like it's so good. Number 8, we have Ramadan kebabi. Now, the Ramadan kebabi is a Turkish kebab recipe, and for this you're gonna need some meat with yogurt, tomato, and garlic, and all of that is stuffed with fresh mint or garnish on pita bread. Now, this is normally prepared with beef, however, sometimes other people use different meats. It all depends on your preference, and it's a very simple and easy dish that tastes so good. I've had this before. One of my Turkish friends went over to her place, her mom made some, and I'm like, bruh, where has this been all my life? Moving on to the food at number 7, we have katayef. Now, this is an Arab dessert, and it's usually eaten during the months of Ramadan in Saudi Arabia. Katayef is a sweet dish, and it's often filled with akawi cheese, or sometimes people just use any other cheese depending on their taste buds. It's also filled with nuts, and some people like it fried, others like it baked. And then you pour some honey on it, some sweet syrup on it, or some powdered sugar. It's an amazing dessert to have during Ramadan. As you could probably tell, I love sweet foods. I was probably a little bit biased when I picked the foods to put in this episode. That's why I'm like, it's not the most healthy, but like, these foods are good. Crunchy sweet dumplings or lokaimat comes in at number 6, and you can find this in Turkey, Egypt, Greece, and even Cyprus, as well as some other countries as well. It's a popular dessert in Arab countries, and it's usually enjoyed after iftar. Iftar, by the way, is the time of the day when Muslims break their fast in the morning during the month of Ramadan. So what are these foods anyways? Well, lokaimats, they are sweet dumplings made of flour, yeast, saffron, as well as cardamom, and all of it is like whipped up in a soft and smooth batter and deep fried. Now it's crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside. It's like heaven. Oh. But here's the thing though, since no sugar is added to the dumplings, they are actually dipped in honey, or some people use date syrup or any kind of syrup to make them a little bit more sweet. Very sweet. Sweetness. That's the theme of this video, sweetness. Number 5, we have fasulia. Now this is a Middle Eastern food, as well as you can find it in North Africa. And what it is it's a stew that's made all over the Middle East and North Africa, like I mentioned. But what they use in it is white kidney beans. You can also use lamb or beef, as well as tomato sauce. And then you serve it with white rice or with fresh bread, like hot out of the oven kind of bread. And by the way, if you didn't know, white kidney beans are called fasulia in the country of Libya. The food at number 4 is Afghani chicken karahi. Now this is known for its mild, spicy, as well as just its delicious flavors. The Afghani chicken karahi is made using cream, eggs, lime juice, as well as it tastes even better when you serve it with spicy chutney. That's what they say anyways. I've never had this before, but let me know down below in the comment section if you've had that or if you've had any of these foods. There's no like flat way to make any of these foods. Obviously you can add your own preferences and your own flavor to them. So yeah, let me know down below in the comment section if you've made any of these foods or at least had any of these foods, and what kind of variations of the food did you have. Now moving on to number 3, we have chorba. Now this is one of the foods that are most commonly eating to break the fast, especially in the country of Morocco. And chorba, by the way, means soup in Arabic apparently. Now it can be made in various ways, although most of the time chorba is associated with Moroccan soup that's made from vegetables as well as chickpeas, and then lamb as well as some sort of pasta or grain is included in the meal. I know this one, bamia is at number 2. I think I'm saying that right. Now you can find this in the Middle East and various parts of Africa, and people eat this all throughout the year, but either way, bamia is probably one of the most famous foods to have in general, and also during the month of Ramadan. The meal is like a mixture of like tender mutton, as well as a rich mix of garlic and lemon and tomato and okra, all served with rice, and it's definitely a must-have during Ramadan. And finally at number 1, I know I put this at number 1, but I can't even rank food from 10 to 1 because it's really all based on people's taste buds, and I haven't tried all of these foods. These are just some of the most popular ones that I found, as well as some of them I have tried, so I had to include them. But anyways, jalebi is at number 1, and it's a well-known Pakistani sweet food. Jalebis are cooked at bakeries, and you can find them at other shops, and they're regular for the people of Pakistan during certain events, as well as, of course, the month of Ramadan. And during the month of Ramadan, the demand for jalebi shoots through the roof. Everybody wants it.
So the first measure you can actually take to stay healthy during Ramadan is by using the salt swap. This hack is actually really simple. Instead of using regular fine table salt, what you're gonna do is actually use Himalayan pink salt instead, because this one actually doesn't have any additives and is minimally processed. Sea salt is also a really good alternative if you can't get a hold of the Himalayan salt, but like the Himalayan salt, it is mineral rich and an additive free. You can always go easy on the salt in general, of course, because the key here is moderation and taking it one step at a time. Like sugar and tea, once you start reducing the amount of salt you use overall, your taste buds actually quickly adjust. Another very important step to take to make sure you're staying healthy during Ramadan is to try and cut sugar out of your diet. Because it's obviously hard to cut out sugar completely right away, it is easier to start using natural, healthier alternatives like coconut sugar or even honey before eventually turning to natural sweeteners like stevia and monk fruit. Another easy way to lower your sugar intake is to obviously eat smaller sweet dishes. You can even make baklava in portions and bake them in whatever quantities that you actually need. Even better, you can get your baklava mix in a much healthier way with baked apples instead of sugars. Another important step to take is to actually eat smaller portions of, well, any food, not just desserts. I personally find that by day 3 of Ramadan, I start to feel full after maybe the first bowl of soup. Then I feel less hungry throughout the day. You can also learn to trick your mind by actually eating the same thing that you would, but just in a smaller dish size. So say you want to eat a full plate of rice, but you actually want to cut it down to half a plate of rice. Instead of eating it in the same bowl, eat it in a smaller bowl, because then your mind will think that you actually ate a full plate of rice, but your body is actually intaking less amounts of rice. So at number 7, to counter the effect of reduced sugar consumption, you should try to opt for the good carbs that will actually help slowly release sugar into your bloodstream and keep your energy levels steadier without spiking your sugar levels. And while I limit my carbs, every now and then I obviously indulge in good carbs. So you can do so as well. These include fruits, sweet potatoes, brown rice, quinoa, and whole grains and oats. For instance, I often use quinoa instead of white rice to make amazing koshari recipes, as well as whole grain pasta to substitute for white pasta, and also whole wheat bread to substitute white bread. Another thing you may find really helpful is adding nuts to your diet, as they are highly nutritious. So snacking on them is actually not a bad idea. They can easily add crunch to your meals, and you can add them to things like oatmeal, yogurt, salads, or even steamed vegetables. Sprinkling some of these crushed nuts on your meals can actually bring life to your meal and add nutritional value to them. So number 5 is actually eliminating fried foods. So I know a lot of you guys are probably a huge fan of the deep fryer, or you might even pull it out once in a while, but there's hope for all of us. So the obvious recommended step to take here would be to bake your food instead of frying it. For example, you can just bake your samosas in the oven. All you need for that is a baking tray with a wire rack, or if you don't have one, you can even place your samosas on an elevated rack over a baking tray. Baked kebab is also a treat instead of frying it. But if all else fails, you can always try to pan fry your food or even invest in an air fryer where your food will taste just as good as actual fried food, but have so much more nutritional value. At number 4 is incorporating more good oils in your recipes. So I personally like using more extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil to make up for the fact that I'm not using the bad oils for my body. You want to make sure that you have a higher smoking point, because the higher smoking point, the better the oil actually is for you, since overheating oils take away beneficial nutrients and produce harmful free radicals in your body. So number 3, another obvious healthy step to take is adding leafy greens to your diet. Spinach, chard, collard, lettuce, and rocket are great options. These greens not only add color to your plate, but also can be loaded with vitamins, minerals, and fibers. Eating a diet rich in leafy greens can actually offer numerous health benefits, including reduced risk of obesity, heart disease, high blood pressure, and even better mental health. In fact, it's actually been recently discovered that the vitamin E and K, as well as the calcium and iron found in these leafy greens, can actually bring about great benefits to those suffering dementia. Number 2, another very important step to take is to increase fluid intake after breaking your fast. And I know this is probably the hardest one to do, because I personally even struggle to actually make sure I'm getting enough fluids after my fast is broken. Fluid obviously helps you to stay healthy and energized, and it also controls body temperature, aids digestion, and gets rid of waste and keeps your bowels regular. So it's fair to say that it's very, very important. If your body's in desperate dehydration, you'll probably notice some specific indications that you need more fluid, such as induced thirst, dry lips and mouth, tiredness, irritability, and even low blood pressure. So keep drinking that water and soup after your fast. Last step that you should take to stay healthy is actually one that surprises some people, because a lot of people neglect exercise during the holy month of Ramadan. But surprise, surprise, it's actually very important to maintain a workout routine during Ramadan, because doing so will keep your energy levels up, keep your mind clear, and your metabolism stable, which is something that you really need to make sure of. So the holy month should not be when you give up on your fitness goals. If anything, it should actually be a month where you strengthen your body so you have better capability to achieve higher fitness goals after the month is over. During the month though, there are certain times that are recommended to actually work out to make sure your body gets the greatest benefit. Overall, you should be cutting down your routine to 2 cardio sessions a week throughout the holy month. One of the best options is to work out 90 minutes before sunset. A light workout towards the cooler part of the day will mean you can soon replenish yourself with water and also reap the benefits of exercising on an empty stomach. However, any workout done during this time should be low-key with more resistance training, low repetitions and weights, and obviously lots of stretching. While cardio can be a little difficult with an emptier stomach, a workout an hour after iftar is actually a good time for weight training. On the days you plan to exercise after your meal, you may want to add in a little bit of extra food to fuel your body and also ensure you drink plenty of water to rehydrate. For early risers, the best time to work out may be just before your morning suhoor. This way you will have energy from the previous night's meal and still get the benefits of exercising on an empty stomach.